And you're listening to the Metis Matters radio show on Co-op Radio 102.7 FM, 3 minutes after 5 o'clock. And Ken is here. He's on the phone. I just wanted to tell you it is the Metis Matters radio show on Co-op Radio 102.7 FM. And if you can't hear us at 102.7 FM, you can hear us online at coopradio.org. And you can listen to shows like the Metis Matters radio program anytime you want, once again, at coopradio.org. Ken couldn't make it in person, but he is on the phone. Hello, Ken.
Here on the phone after a 2-week stay away from the station, and I want to say a big hello to all my regular listeners. I'm having to do this by phone because I'm kind of laid up. Last week last Wednesday, when the show was supposed to be on, I was in the Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops suffering from a broken ankle. And I was under the knife, as they say, on the operating table, getting surgery for my broken ankle. Slipped on a patch of ice in the city of Kamloops. I was there on urban Aboriginal strategy business. Consequence of that was I spent 2 days in the hospital. And it was a complete accident, I'm sure, but it was probably a situation where somebody should have cleaned up the ice at the back of this restaurant we were in. And it was a dark spot, and it could happen to anybody, I suppose, but happened to me this time. Couldn't walk. The usual routine was to go to the call 911. The ambulance comes. They load you on a gurney, put you in the truck, wheel you over to emergency. You sit there for 3-4 hours. They diagnose your situation, and I had to get my ankle bones straightened up by the bone doctor. And, of course, the other situation was that they finally found me a place in the ward with 2 other people, and I was slated for surgery the next day on Wednesday, pardon me. I'm talking about Tuesday night I was in, and then on Wednesday I had surgery, right at the same time that the Metis Matters radio show was on.
Imagine that.
Yeah, so it's a coincidence, but however, things are back to normal, and I'm here to hopefully Mark has got some good music for you here today, and we're expecting someone to come in and play my co-host. A couple of people offered, and they're on their way. So
actually, one of them's here right now, Keith Henry.
Yes.
Oh, Keith Henry's there. Okay, well, Keith is on the line. That's great. Must have made good time from that bridge he was on.
Yeah, I had to call Ken frantically. It was traffic stuck on Lionsgate Bridge, and anyone that knows Vancouver knows that that can become a heck of a mess very quickly.
Right. Well, thanks for coming in, Keith, and being the co-host here today, because I'm going to just hang up after a while and let you go with it. But Mark's going to play music. It's the regular routine of the Metis Matters radio show. But I was just going to read an article I picked up out of the paper here. Just as you know, the Métis National Council recently had their annual general meeting in Saskatoon, and also it was the 3-year term of the president of the Métis National Council, Mr. Clem Chartier, was up. So here's the article: Saskatoon, the Métis National Council, the national government body of the Métis people, re-elected Clem Chartier as president during the organization's General Assembly, held in Saskatoon over the weekend. That was last weekend. It is always an honor to be elected, to have that vote of confidence, Mr. Chartier said after his re-election. This will be the 3rd consecutive term for Mr. Chartier. Mr. Chartier promised to focus more on land rights in his next term and to work harder to unify the group. Well, I understand that a lot of our representatives from BC were there, from the president on down to the board of directors. And you know something? To this day, and that was like 10 days ago, we have not heard one report other than that little article in the paper. Where is our leadership of the Metis Nation BC? Why are they not reporting back to us about what took place there? What debate took place? What was discussed? Did they speak up for the Métis people of BC? Anything like that? They're supposed to be there as delegates, and not one of them took the time to pick up the phone and report or put out a press release other than what I see in the pay. I had to go to the National Post to find this out. So what do you think?
Well, if you're asking me, Ken, as your co-host, and of course I'm here today, and thanks for allowing me to be your co-host. And those that know, I'm here today in the capacity as a Métis citizen and a member of your community. And I think that everyone knows that I've been recently the newly appointed spokesperson of the coalition, but I'm not here today in that capacity. But I certainly will address questions should they arise. Given the National Council, I think, Ken, you and I over the years have had many conversations about these very things, and there's right now, I think this is just symbolic of what we see in a number of areas. There's absolutely no communication unless the media forces a conversation with MNBC as it stands today. So that's unfortunate, but I guess we have to accept that, and we have to decide where we go from here now. I mean, citizens just have to hopefully see what's going on for themselves and make judgment. You're absolutely right, Ken. Leadership should have been telling their governance councils and the presidents of what was going on and what's not. And I know that when I was served in a role as a former CEO a few years ago, I used to personally take pride in being able to report back these number of items. So I can only tell you I don't understand what's going on, but there's absolutely no communication. And I don't even know how many reps went. I mean, it's the same questions over and over. I heard there was a number of reps. It'll be interesting to see a list of who all went to that meeting.
Well, the executive secretary at the Metis Nation BC head office, Tracy, sends out stuff, but it's all of a frivolous nature, has nothing to do with what's really going on. And I'm just getting frustrated with the fact of no communication. And look back on all the election promises that were bandied about around September 2008 when the election, at the last Metis Nation BC election. None of these people are living up to their election promises. Nothing at all. No communications. And I understand, Keith, you were on the CBC the other day giving an account of what you thought was the conditions of the Metis Nation BC and their finances.
Yeah, I was invited to participate on the Rick Clough show. CBC's been following, and we knew about that at the coalition for some time. It was interesting to see that the media had picked it up, and just coincidentally, I can assure you that they're not the only media outlet that's watching this with great interest. I think the questions that I've always said my concern is really around the sustainability and long-term financial health of the nation. No one's going to convince me otherwise. The CEO right now, I think, is completely lost in what she's talking about. I mean, she forgets what she said from one interview to the next. And unfortunately, Rick Clough didn't set it up in a debate type thing, but I really did talk about my concern about the long-term sustainability, and I talked about the debt and a few other things. And, of course, Melanie came back as a CEO now and came back on and tried to just spin it as it's all a good thing and they're making money and the rest of it. And when she was pressed by Rick Clough to say, well, what if you can't make money? Well, I guess we'll sell the school, we think. I mean, that just is, again, and I ask myself as a citizen, now remember, I'm a card-carrying citizen. Would they have they won't respond to 40 letters from the coalition. We've had over 100,000 views on our website. We celebrated that today. And I wonder why aren't they responding to their own citizens? And I really believe the only reason they responded to CBC was because they felt they had to. And I think that's not right. I think I don't care about their accountability to CBC. I don't care about their accountability to government officials. I don't care if they had a meeting with the Premier. That means nothing to me as it stands today. It's not disrespectful to those people. But our questions today are around the programs and services for the Métis people here in British Columbia and an accountability back to the people. I mean, what's the point of having a government if they're not going to talk to their people?
Right. Anyway, on the Métis Matters radio show, we invite people to call in. It's an open line. The number to call is 604-684-7561. Give them a call at the station. My name's Ken Fisher. Don't forget, I'm not at the station. I'm convalescing at my home in Surrey from this broken ankle. Got a heavy cast on my left leg.
You're phoning it in.
I'm phoning it in. People say, how do you do that? Modern technology, the telephone, been around for 100 years.
I think, Ken, I'd just like to, on behalf of the Métis people in British Columbia, want to be the first to tell you how much I'm only here today because I believe that you're one of the few people in this province. I know you've been outspoken, and I'm not just saying this because I think you support some of the things you and I have had many debates. But the fact is, this station is one of the only real ways we can communicate through some sort of form of media using the radio, what you do here. I know you've been involved since the 80s. This is the first show you've basically, last week and this week is the first time you've missed since roughly 1989. I just have to tell you that as a citizen and a little bit younger than you, that I admire that tenacity and I admire everything you've done. And I'm not just saying that to, I guess, pacify. I think people lose sight of the fact that you're doing this on a volunteer basis. They lose sight of the fact that recently the MNBC told you they couldn't support this show, and it wasn't a lot of money that you get to help provide, just cover the cost for this show. I know that. But I mean, the fact is, this is the only radio show we've got in BC, and I would just want to say thank you for never giving up and always trying to help educate the young Métis about and playing the music, and it really helps me care and believe that there still is a nation worth fighting for. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel it's a cause that I'm dedicated to, and we want to make the Métis people move forward in a positive manner. I'm from the prairies myself, just like you are, Keith. Yeah. And of course, as far as ages, I must confess I'm more than twice your age.
Well, you are old.
But then again, don't forget, I've gained quite a bit of knowledge. But I know you as an intelligent person with a lot of experience behind your degrees in the university and all that. And in the time when you were the CEO of the MNBC, we always look forward to all your activities and how you conducted yourself during that time. So it's all good stuff. And we're all very disappointed when you were either, some people say, fired, and you decided to step aside. Well,
the facts are that I have a letter of resignation that I've shown, and certainly everyone knows we had our political differences, and there was a fight, and that's the end of it. I mean, they want to walk around and say negative things. That's their prerogative. I've always said that. They are entitled to say whatever they want, and that's fine. I do want to say, though, that I know your break. I've actually, as you know, shared with you jokingly over many of these radio interviews and otherwise, I had broken my ankle playing hockey in a similar fashion, and I didn't get the surgery, so I know how painful that is. And I just want you to know I'm only here today because I think we as a community have to pull together to help when these things happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it can get pretty sometime when you have to do a show and nobody seems to be coming on board with you. But I'm this is probably my 600th or 700th show, so. In the meantime, though, that aside, we like to play music here on the Métis Matters radio show, and we're going to take a break right now, and, of course, we invite your calls to 604-7561. Do give us a call if you got whoever's listening. And
we actually do have a caller right now, Ken.
Okay, well, do you want to take the call then? I think.
Yeah, we should put him over the air. They wanted to talk to Keith right away here.
Well, let's take the call, and then we'll play music after that.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
Cool. Whoops. Oh, they chickened out. Well, we'll get to some music then. This is called Road to Batoche. This is John Arcon. Co-op Radio 102.7 FM. This is the Metis Matters radio show, 518 if you're time obsessed, and that was John Arcon, something called Road to Potash. And in case we forgot the first tune, it was Red River Jig by Richard Lafferty. We're now back with Keith Henry, and I believe Daryl Piper is here as well. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us in the studio there, Mark.
Yes, good evening. And Ken,
we have a phone call.
Get well soon, Ken.
We have a phone call, actually. Hello. Come in. Are you
Hello.
there?
I'm there.
Good to hear your voice.
Okay, it's Malcolm McPherson phoning in. I just wanted, well, first off, I want to say to Keith Henry that, Keith, you did a great job on the radio the other morning. You came across as very, your thoughts were collected, you were well researched, you presented well, and the most important thing is you just spoke to the facts. You're, I guess, the person who did the counterpoint, the CEO, Melanie Langthorne, unfortunately did not fare as well from my humble perspective. She spoke extremely quickly. It's hard to follow, but sadly there was not a lot of substance to what she was saying, and I found that disappointing as a listener, because a lot of us, we want to find out what's going on with the debt recovery plan. That being said, I just have two principal comments. My first comment just goes to the MNBC leadership. They're really down in the polls. At the last AGM, 41% of the people were against them, and those were people that were not paid to attend. I'd be surprised if they still have 50% support. I think that the leadership there needs to take a long, sober look at where they're at and do the respectful thing, and that's to resign. If they need a little incentive, just look at what Carol James did recently. She listened. She did the politically astute thing. The second comment, and this goes back to the radio interview, is that CEO Melanie Langthorne advised everyone that basically the Canadian economy was responsible for their fiscal predicament. That is untrue. The reason that they're in a political pickle at the moment is because they failed to plan and they've been fiscally irresponsible. They have not consulted with the people on major purchases. That is the source of their current fiscal problems. And they really need to wake up in that department, because there isn't a lot of time. And I encourage all the listeners out there to realize that there's not much time to basically save this organization from financial ruin. Those are my two comments.
Well, thanks, Malcolm. I don't know if you were going to stay on the line for a second so I can provide a bit of a response, or...
Certainly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you and I have, just to be, transparent to the listeners. I mean, I've certainly chatted with you a number of times about that. In the interview again, I also agree with you. I mean, I was shocked to hear this is a line that MNBC has used over the last couple of meetings now, where they say, well, the economy's having an effect on us. Well, we don't generate revenues at the MNBC off a tax base that like the governments traditionally do through either the province or the federal systems. We certainly don't generate a revenue in those traditional sources. So if the economy gets hit, it's not like we're getting hit in our business community or our revenue off taxes from the citizens. We're a non-profit organization that gets funding for programs and services. To that end, Melanie also spoke about a number of times in letters and otherwise that we've certainly got on record and will be prepared to show, continually in the future here. She made many promises to citizens. I guarantee the administration will be reduced. We're reducing costs. We're this, we're that. All the while, if you actually looked at the financial statements released at the September 2010 annual general meeting, the fact was that they presented administrative amounts that actually had increased $300,000 from the previous fiscal year. So, it's double talk, it's excuses, and people think for some reason that in terms of the coalition or myself personally that I hate these guys or I don't like them. It has nothing to do with that. It's business. And I really feel, Malcolm, that I appreciate that comment, because we have to be able to, as a nation, have that level of conversation with our citizens. And people deserve, we're not dumb, we can figure things out. And I think until that happens, it's really challenging. And that's the only comment I would provide back to that statement you made.
Well, thank you, Keith. I just have one follow-up to that, if you'd indulge me.
Yeah.
And that is, as you know, I work in the private sector. And, good times, bad times, there's certain companies in the private sector that still do well. And what I can tell you is actually it's the companies that have contracts with the governments that do the best. Why, do you ask? They do the best because the government in good times or bad times, even though it has to, sort of tighten its belt, is still in a financially stable position. So there's no good reason why the MNBC, notwithstanding the political turmoil, is not in better shape. If anything, they should largely be insulated by the bad global economy because they source their funding from the government. I think that's a very important point that was not articulated by Melanie Langthorne.
Well, and just to add to that end, I mean, I also feel the same way. I mean, you're absolutely right, but that's for an organization that has a business plan corporately and how they're going to manage their administration. I think people don't understand the reason why the debt went so far above last year. It was actually $1.3 million. We've made that public. It was stated at the 2010 annual general meeting in September. $965,000. Now, I want people to remember this. $965,000 was spent on administration. I don't understand how management and leadership can sit back and say, well, that's the way we did things in previous fiscal years, so that's justification for moving forward. Like any company, when there's only $10, you make a plan based on $10. If there's $20, you make a plan on $20. If you're going to lose that much administration, so now today, we're, as a nation and citizens, or someone's going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with that going forward. And I can only continue as from the coalition perspective. We've been volunteering our time to go to the regional sessions, and we've had two now, one on Vancouver Island, one in the Lower Mainland this past weekend, where we've been providing that information and being accountable for where we're getting these figures from. And it's right from the MNBC financial statements themselves. So I don't know if you had any final comments, Malcolm, on that.
Yeah, well, I guess my final comment would be that to the listening public, there isn't a lot of time. I've looked at those finances, and Keith, I agree with your assessment, which is just based on numbers, nothing personal. The numbers say what they say, and what they're saying is that there's massive fiscal irresponsibility. And I'll tell you what burns me the most is that it's not going to affect people like yourself, Keith, or me, but it's going to affect the most vulnerable people in the nation, and that's the kids, those that need funding to go to school, those that need funding to get meaningful employment. They're going to be hurt, and that's what bothers me the most. And I think collectively, we all have a responsibility to do our part and to ensure that does not happen. Those would be my parting words. Okay, thanks, Malcolm, for your phone call, and we certainly appreciate it here as I moderate this call today, or this radio show, Metis Matters radio show today. And we'll catch you later. It's now just about 5:26. It's Keith Henry here, and I just would like to just one final comment. I think that's Malcolm McPherson, our last caller, raised a very good point that I've firmly believe is that it's the people that are most vulnerable that are going to be hurt by bad financial decisions. And down the road, as Malcolm had pointed out, it's not about myself personally. I don't need those services, but for those that do need those services, it becomes a long-term problem. And if this financial mess isn't cleaned up, that's the people that are going to be hurt the most. Daryl Piper is in studio with me as he joined us today here in Metis Matters radio show as a co-host, if you will. And I certainly thank Daryl for making his way in. It was a last-minute fill-in as we tried to sort of cobble a team together to try and support Ken and his current ailment. And, of course, Ken will be phoning back in later in the show. Daryl, did you have any input or any comments on what Malcolm, our last caller, had to say?
Yes, certainly I do. First of all, Keith, I haven't really had a chance publicly to thank you for what you've done for stepping as a spokesperson. You definitely have what it takes to bring the CCMC forward. And thanks again. And Ken, again, get well soon, Ken. We really miss you. As Malcolm was saying, this all becomes about finances, and I hate to say these words again. I know I keep getting caught in these catchphrases, but accountability, transparency, and sustainability, that's what the CCMC has been based on. And the unfortunate thing, Melody had nothing positive to say on that radio interview, and just made me even more frustrated for her. I mean, she's really misleading everyone, and I just can't say for the future of the people, mainly the children, and of course the elders who really need those programs are going to suffer. And I'm not so sure, and I'm not a financial wizard, but I'm not so sure we're going to get out of this mess. This is going to be for many, many years to come. Thanks, Keith. Those are my comments.
Okay, and on that note, maybe we should play our next tune. So, Mark, what's our next song coming up on the program?
Got Shuffle for V by Art Bird. It's the Media Matters radio show on Co-op Radio, 102.7 FM, just past 5:30. That was Shuffle for V by Art Bird from his latest CD called Fiddle with Flavor. And we're back with Keith Henry, Daryl Piper, and I believe Ken is waiting on the line. Is that you, Ken?
No, it's Bev.
Oh, well, welcome,
Even
Bev.
better.
Hey, Bev, just before you, can I just make a quick comment before you ask your question? It was great, and it's ironic that you made that call. Those that don't know, the listeners, what a great Métis cultural icon, the gentleman that the song was just played, Mr. Art Bird. For those of us that knew Art, I just can only send my best wishes to the family. As we all know, Art passed away a few years ago, and he was such a fiddling legend here in British Columbia, and a treasure, one of the few elders we have left in this in the nation of British Columbia that was helping teach us younger generation about what the fiddle was and the music and how that was relevant to our way of life as in their generation, and passing that on. And Bev, I just want to say, it was a real special evening. I spent one of the last evenings with Art Bird before he passed along into the afterlife with yourself at the MVUAS a few years ago, and I got to spend the evening with the family as Art left us. And I can only say it's ironic that you called when I was just going to talk about that and just pay a tribute to Art as the moderator of the show this evening.
Oh, am I on the air?
You're on the air now.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Am I still here?
Yeah.
Am I still there?
You are.
Am I on now?
Yes. Who's on first?
Anyways, when I heard that song, it brought back so many memories from the time I first started teaching the culture, and that was one of the first performances I went to was in Kamloops, and with you and Art Bird there holding my hand and saying, come on, you can do it. That brought back memories of why I'm doing this.
Maybe tell the listeners. Maybe tell the listeners why we were in Kamloops at that time and the role you played.
That was for the federal government. Okay, my memories.
I'll help you out here,
Okay.
Bev. It was a historic day. It was for those the listeners that are listening. That was in 2000 and roughly 5, I guess it's 6, leading into 2006. At the culmination of the first ever First Ministers meeting on Aboriginal issues in Kelowna, where the federal government under the previous government, not the current one, but the previous one, put together the national effort on the First Ministers meeting. And it was an Aboriginal gathering of First Nations, Métis and Inuit and urban Aboriginal people from coast to coast to coast here in Kamloops. And we were truly honored. They were showcasing First Nation, Métis and Inuit culture, and they actually allowed us, and we brought Art Bird and of course Beverly Lambert to come in and represent the Métis people and our culture as part of that historic meeting.
I'll never forget that feeling, and I think that's what we have to promote to our youth too out there, and having programs and enabling the communities to go out and fund these too, so our youth can be proud of that too. The same feeling I felt is what I want to give back to the community and our youth and our elders. I think that's really important, that they have to know who they are and where their grassroots are. And in order to get that feeling of, it's like a scale when you're thinking of who you are versus what you can do. Who I am is your spirituality, and it's your whole being, and that's where our culture is. And that takes you and gives you the self-esteem you need to be that doctor, that lawyer, or anything you want to be. But it gives you your spirit back, and it gives you a sense of belonging, and that's what we need to keep tight. And I just, as myself personally, and my values in the CCMC, is letting people speak, because, I mean, when you can't speak anymore, freedom of speech, what do we have? And I feel that that's being lost, and people are getting fired here left and right, and I don't feel that. My mom never brought me up to treat people that way, and that's why I say to people, it's like, pay attention and listen on either side. I mean, do something. Our whole nation's at stake. And our culture, to me, is so important. And I believe that these meetings that they're having is that people should come out and say what they want at these CCMC sessions on both sides. Because, I mean, like someone said before, it could be many, many years before everything, and if everything is lost, where are we going to be? We're letting go of our community leaders and all our people, and that's going to be hard to get back again. And it's really sad for me. And I don't really care personally. I'll keep doing my cultural thing, whether I'm supported by anybody, because, you know what? That's what I was born to be. I've had a life of hardship too, right? I've had things that have happened to me, but that's what made me stronger. And I just want to say to the CMC and everybody else out there that's promoting culture and promoting freedom of speech from both sides, I respect that. And I congratulate all of you for the wonderful job you're doing. And I say to everybody out there, for culture, come out and join us and have fun, and keep your spirit going, because together we'll be able to do it. But, you know, if people wants to stand by themselves, they're going to be standing alone. But if you can't forget about your people. So from my heart, I say, long live our nation. Thank you, Keith.
Well, thank you, Beverly. And I just want to, if I'm not sure you're going to stay on the phone for a moment, but I just want to say how much hearing you speak should be why we're doing what we're doing today. And I think for me, I'm here on this radio show helping Ken, and I've always tried to contribute back to the nation, even in spite of differences of opinion. It's not personal. It can't be personal. It's about our future. It's about our children. It's about our families and our culture. And I know a lot of people talk that way, and we all say that, but I think actions speak louder than words. And what we see, I think, is a lot of people that are frustrated with the lack of cultural activity. And it just seems like we're a rudderless ship, in my opinion. And I'm sorry to get on a soapbox here a bit, but I just want to say that what I see happening at those sessions that the coalition has been providing is really that sense of people they do want to have culture. They want to work together to figure things out. But, when it comes to where we are today with current leadership and management, if they won't even give the documentation or anything to really be open and honest about, are we facing problems? I mean, because obviously we are. It's you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that. That's just not even an Aboriginal traditional culture. I mean, when I think of my family and my grandma and my grandpa, and I grew up with the Michif language and listening to them and watching how they dealt with issues, when there was a problem, I can tell you with confidence, the family sat around in a circle and things were dealt with, and whatever the outcome was, you had to accept. We don't have that. What we have is a secret closed-door society that's only going to tell us what they think we need to hear, and that's not an Aboriginal value in any way, not for Métis, not for First Nations or Inuit or the urban Aboriginal communities. So I think we just see a real a shift in I guess cultural values, and I think for me that's why I've gotten so much more involved in because I certainly don't need to be in the middle of a fight, but I think that I stand up for what I believe, and I grew up with too many years of my grandparents and my father, even to this day, still questioning whether or not he's proud to be Métis, and I think that is something that's very important to me, and I can only say I don't think of anyone more than you when I think of who could make me feel proud about being Métis. So I just want to thank you, Beverly, for all you've done.
Well, thank you, and thank you to everybody out there that I've attended many festivals this year, especially with many of the First Nations out in Fort Nelson area and Halfway Reserves and Dawson Creek and Grand Prairie lately. They've really accepted me, and really our community has too. And it's just a matter of time before, like you say, everybody's going to be sitting around that table again. Because that's what I was raised with, people talking and sharing information. And because silence, it just creates so many barriers, and people start to, it just separates people. And I'd like to say also with Ken and Joyce that I know with Joyce, I would like to say to Joyce that she is a big Métis supporter, and I wish him a speedy recovery there, Ken. No, I can't kick anybody in the butt.
Well, I saw him on the weekend, and I can honestly say that's the first time in my life so far I've ever seen Ken Fisher down for the count in a chair, and I'm sure he's probably grimacing as I'm saying that on the show right now. He's a trooper, and he's a fighter. Ken was on my case many times over the years, but he really is someone that I can't agree with you more, Beverly. Joyce and her work and her support and I guess compassion and human care for the Métis Nation is just so many of the spouses you see, and I give them themselves, and Joyce is just another person that deserves definitely a shout out, if you would call it that, I guess. So thanks.
Exactly.
So thank you, Beverly, for the phone call, and appreciate it, and keep up the cultural work.
And same with you guys. I'll be there at the next session, and try and get people singing and dancing again, and hope everybody comes out and really give some input too, whether good or bad. Just come and it's open.
Yeah, we certainly. Thanks, Beverly. And on that note, we certainly we will talk to you after, Beverly.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
We certainly, again, Beverly was speaking about the coalition, and the next meeting of the coalition is in Kamloops on December 20th, so next Tuesday from 7 till 9 at the Holiday Inn at 675 Tranquil Road. So all the Métis in the Thompson Okanagan region, you're certainly invited to attend that session, voice your concerns, voice your displeasure, have an opportunity to talk about the 6 issues that the coalition has raised and trying to and figure out and really have a handle on what the blueprint strategy that the coalition members have endorsed, if you will, is setting out a number of solutions, such as, given the current financial state, the immediate, call for third-party management or trustees to start managing the corporate affairs and the financial checks and balances. So, and on that note, I think we might turn to our next song.
Yep, which is the Dill Pickle Rag by Artbird. listening to Co-op Radio 102.7 FM on your FM dial, also coopradio.org, also on Star Choice Satellite, channel 845, and of course TELUS TV, channel 718. It is the Métis Matters radio program, and you just heard another one from Fiddling Art Bird, something called Dill Pickle Rag, and it is 5:46 at Co-op Radio and the Métis Matters show, and it's now back to Keith Henry.
Thank you, Mark, and it's Keith Henry here, Métis citizen, Nova Métis Heritage Association, and current co-host, filling in for our sort of decommissioned, if you will, Métis Matters moderator Ken Fisher, and Lord help me when he hears that, and he'll be
temporarily indisposed.
Temporarily indisposed, and I'd say they committed him, but he
That's even worse.
Yeah. So I think we've got some callers, so let's go to the line.
Oh, well, they're gone again. They don't want to stay on the line. Okay.
Okay. Do we have another caller?
Nope.
All right. Well, we lost our caller. We did have a caller, so those that are calling again at 604-684-7561. If you want to call back, the previous callers, please feel free. We're open to your discussions and your views. Of course, that's what the Métis Matters radio show has prided itself, I think, under Ken's management and so forth. And I think we might have our caller back. So,
okay, let's see what we're going to... Hello, you're on the air.
Hello there. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas from the snowy north. Darlene Bitterman here.
Ho, ho, ho.
That was Daryl, the my silent co-host.
Well, we haven't seen him fly over the house yet, so.
Well, he's getting ready here, so.
We wish Ken a speedy recovery because we're missing him, that's for sure.
So, okay, so any other views before we let you go and sign off?
Okay. Basically, I've been asking for answers from the MNBC since 2008, and I've never did have any sort of responses coming from the elections data that I requested. And that seems to be the forte that we're running up against, is lack of information.
Yeah, I think it's, of course, I'm a bit leery about speaking about that because, of course, as you know, and many of the listeners know, MNBC has decided to somehow, for whatever reason, try and take me to court over the 2008 electoral issue, and I guess we'll let that play its way through. But for the record, I just want to say, Erlene, I think publicly, you were the person that raised it. I know that, and I think it's prudent you continue to raise it, and that's your prerogative and your right as a citizen to demand accountability of leadership, regardless of whether it's uncomfortable or not. I will say how disappointed I was at the Metis Nation Governing Assembly, for those that were there last March, when a resolution was passed that we accept the 2008 financials, and that's fine over the electoral issue when the leadership was asked to deal with it. So I think, to me, that continues to show that we've got a lot of work to educate our leadership at the chartered community level as well, that it's not just a fancy trip to Vancouver. Citizens expect more from their leadership at all levels, and I think what we have today isn't just the responsibility of the board of directors. It flows all the way through the organizations that have sat back and supported this current leadership group for what we face today, which is significant debts and a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, I think the debt is growing as we speak. Like the 7.7 million we're in debt now is also compiling as challenges against legal challenges against us as citizens, because I'm currently writing a legal challenge myself. So this is going to come to fruition sometime in March 2011. Exactly is this costing the MNBC and never mind myself. So, sometime we have to look at the reality of these challenges, whether or not they're frivolous or not.
Well, I think personally, from my point of view on this, and as a spokesperson, I will make a statement. I think that any time your government sues its own people, and it's not just myself and a few others, it's yourself to do it with a youth project that I'm intimately aware of that from 2008, which is completely, it just seems to be more of a nuisance than anything. And I just say it's unfortunate. People can, hopefully they'll look at the facts and review that and say, yeah, you're right. These are the same people that kept telling the 3 suspended directors, go to the Senate, go to the Senate, go to the Senate. But of course, it's okay for them to run to the courts. So, I guess the hypocrisy all the way around is disappointing.
Well, my last comment is, as our year closes, this is the year of the Métis, and I'd like to add a little bit of a grassroots in the year of Métis, and that's where we stand right now.
Well, thank you for your call, Arlene. I think you raised some good questions, and I do thank you for that. And of course, we invite all other callers. And you have yourself a great day, okay, Arlene?
You too, bud.
Yeah. Thank you, Arlene. That was Arlene Bitterman, Métis citizen. She didn't say where she was from, but of course she is from Hudson Hope in the Great White North. And I can tell you, I just came from up in the central. It's a snowy winter wonderland up in that area, and quite cold compared to Vancouver. So thank you, Arlene, for your call. We might be going to another line.
Actually, we got Ken Fisher back online. Hey, Ken.
Yes, I'm back on the line, and I'm ready to make my final comments on what's the date today? December the 15th, 2010.
Absolutely. And Ken, I just want to say, I think I might want to work here full time. This has kind of been an interesting perspective.
It's yours, Keith. It's yours.
No, I'm just kidding. I just I had to catch my wits about me there, forgetting that I'm supposed to be moderating. Mark threw it over to me a few times, and threw me off there.
Well, you got to get used to those hand signals behind the glass there.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'd like to remind you that can you speak a little bit about what happened this Saturday at the Region 2 town hall meeting, shall we say?
Yeah, really quickly, I think, Ken, again, thanks. And the coalition had a meeting, a regional session in the Lower Mainland in Surrey. It was supported by a number of citizens, and there was about 40 people there. And of course, the coalition presented an overview of what we believe the issues are. And of course, we invited the MNBC and everyone else to show up. No one did show up from MNBC to answer questions. You know, and of course, in contrast, on Monday morning, they did talk to CBC because I guess they felt that media was more important than their own citizens. But not to be coy about that, that is a concern in and of itself. But I think we raised the 6 issues. There was a presentation. Coalition sponsored cultural support. Beverly Lambert and some musicians were invited, and we had a great time. I actually felt that the good, the bad, and the difficult conversations happened in an open and safe environment, and that's been what the coalition has been trying to do through these sessions. Is we got to help people understand how serious this is and how urgent these matters have to be dealt with.
Well, I'd like to call on your associate there to give out the website of the CCMC, if he has it in his mind.
I certainly do. It's www.mnbc.
No, he did it again.
www.mnbcagm.wordpress.com.
3 W's. www.mnbcagm.wordpress.com.
And I understand that the Vancouver Métis Cultural Society is going to have an upcoming meeting in January. Have you set the date yet?
No, it'll be near the end of January, either the 3rd week or the 4th week in January.
I see. And now, are you the new president?
No, I'm not. I'm right now. I am the president, but I'm not the new president.
Well,
I'm the existing
now.
president.
When president is
no, I'm the actually acting president, Ken.
When one president is asked to step aside, and you're the vice president, you are the new president.
Okay, then. Look, thank you for correcting me, Ken. I am the new president
of the
Vancouver Métis Cultural Society.
You guys need to get an office in there so you can represent us. Now, I want to ask you a question. What is your relationship with the other 6 locals in the Lower Mainland?
Well, I've had some spoke with yourself and Nova Métis, and I have also spoke with Alan Lavalley, and we do want to have a meeting together.
Alan Lavalley of Wasaya.
Of Wachia, yes.
Well, we have had our meeting, but we need to get something formal going. Now, what about the other 3? That's the North Fraser Métis Association, the Fraser Valley Métis Association, and the Chilliwack Métis Association. Are they willing to come on board?
I had a conversation with actually one of the youth reps from the Chilliwack Métis Association, but that's as far as it's gone.
Well, you need to talk to the president, Mr. Les Mitchell.
Yeah, that's correct.
Otherwise, no use talking to the youth if you can talk to the president.
Well, I was hoping to get something going through the youth. She was doing a youth project, and I was hoping to get something, perhaps a meeting, and have her come down or us come down over there and maybe have a meeting with their association. But it kind of didn't work out that way. Now,
referring back to what Keith just said about the next coalition of concerned Métis citizens sponsored, shall we say, regional meetings, meaning the town hall meetings. In the next one, it's going to be in Kelowna. Did he say?
No, Kamloops on Tuesday, December 20th, from 7 till 9 at the Holiday Inn.
Well, let me just do the math here, Keith. The 15th of December is today.
That's right.
15 and 5 is 20. So what day of the week is that again?
It's next Tuesday.
And
Sorry. Am I wrong on that? Oh my God! Is it Monday?
No, it's Monday.
Yeah,
it's not
sorry,
Tuesday.
I apologize. It's Monday. I apologize.
It's Monday, and you're inviting all the people listening in the Kamloops area to
get
on board?
That's right. The Thompson Okanagan region. It's certainly open for any Métis citizen. And I think Ken, on that note, I think we've got one final caller.
Okay. It's Ed from Creston, I believe. Hello?
Yeah, hi there. Hey, I've got one quick question. How do we hold a secret ballot?
Well, it depends on the type of meeting, Ed, and thanks for the question and the call. And I think...
Is that in our Constitution, secret ballot?
It isn't in the Constitution per se, but it doesn't prescribe whether it can or can't be. And what we should be doing is when the delegates deal with meetings, they should just mandate that it's dealt with by secret ballot. And I think that is a very relevant point when you think back, in my experience, of the last annual general meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Ed, you wanted to ask about?
One other thing, I think the financial statement should be brought up at the first thing at every meeting.
Absolutely. I think that I couldn't agree more. The annual general meeting, that was the crux of the issue for the coalition and myself specifically about what I'm worried about. And I think that that's our long-term health. And unfortunately, if we don't deal with that, none of us will have to worry about those programs, as limited as they are. It's something that we have to protect. So thanks, Ed, for your call.
Okay, is this Keith?
Yes, it is.
Keith, I tried to send you an email to Keith Alfred Henry today.
Yeah.
It didn't, no such person.
It's, do you have can I give it to you over the air?
Sure, I think you should give it over there because I tried it on the internet today and I had no luck.
Sure, it's Keith, okay, as a CCMC spokesperson, it's Keith K.
I can't hear you very well. I'm sort of deaf, so can
Sorry.
you give it over there again?
Sure, it's...
okay, thanks.
All right. So the question was getting my email, and the email for the listeners is the spokesperson of the coalition. It's Keith, KeithAlfredHenry at gmail.com. So it's Keith Alfred Henry at gmail.com, and I hope Ed just had maybe a letter or two backwards. So with that, we'd like to bring the show to a close. I'd like to thank Ken and all the listeners. It's Keith Henry here from Nova Métis Heritage Association, and my co-host Daryl Piper filling in as support to our currently somewhat disabled former Métis Matters radio show host Ken Fisher. We wish everyone a Merry Christmas. If we don't get a chance to be back on the show before Christmas, we thank all the callers. And we encourage people to get informed, get involved, and have a great Happy New Year. Thanks again for the Métis Matters radio show.
And this is Co-op Radio, 102.7 FM, and we're finishing off with Richard Lafferty and Maple Sugar Rag. Stay tuned for Conscious Living Radio.